Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call the Calbright College Board of Trustees Executive Committee meeting to order this morning on August the 11th at 11 a.m. And before the meeting gets started, I'd like the board liaison to review the meeting procedures and protocols.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I am Terry Lucas, Board Liaison at Calbright College. You can follow our meeting agenda on Board Docs. The link can be found on our website, calbright.org, under About Board of Trustees. For attendees who wish to make public comment, please use the Q&A feature to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Public comment should be used to address today's agenda. A reminder that this board meeting is being recorded. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo.
Present.
Amy Costa.
Present.
Tom Epstein.
Here.
Jolena Grande.
Here.
Pamela Haynes.
Here.
Jennifer Perry.
Present.
And Bill Rawlings.
Present.
Thank you. We have quorum, President Haynes.
Thank you. Now we will proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Hildy Aguinaldo to lead us in the pledge.
Thank you very much, President Haynes. If you could join me in the pledge, please put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Before we get into any of our agenda items, I'd like to discuss the order of the agenda, and if there's any questions with regard to the order, I would entertain them now. I don't see any hands raised, so I'll move on with the, I'm going to pass on the President's report and move into the CEO report. President Mignon.
Okay. Thank you, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, and members of the Board of Trustees. Calbright College, as you know, embodies this very intrinsically Californian ideal that opportunity should be available to all who seek it. And last week, there was a report from the Public Policy Institute of California, which highlights this in context of how the state can improve its career education pathways to prepare our workforce for the future. And the report specifically outlines several recommendations, including improved partnerships between colleges, but also with employers and workforce-focused organizations. It also articulates the potential benefits of collaboration and shared goals across the California community college system. Equally important is the PPIC's direct call to address equity gaps in achievement, which would accelerate the economic benefits of the training programs for students, as well as for their communities and for the state as a whole. And I could not have said it better. This is really important validation of what is needed, and it highlights the clear direction in which Calbright has been forging ahead. Calbright's team, our faculty, staff, administration, alongside many of our colleagues at sister community colleges, we remain focused on the opportunity, but also the challenge to rebuild a more resilient and inclusive California. And our steps are outlined in our 2021-2022 budget, which we'll be presenting later in the meeting. The budget reflects a really important moment for Calbright. The 2021-22 fiscal year launches the first year of our 3-year phase of high quality growth, as we've outlined in the board approved strategic vision. And like the work of our dedicated team, the budget is very student focused. It reflects the needs of current and future learners who are working adults and caregivers and parents who call every part of the state home. Our ambitious goals pair active investment in student services and learning platforms with intentional engagement with industry, employers, and other mission-aligned partners. These are areas of focus that combine to support both program design, but also career preparation, as well as a stronger connection into the labor market. And while our budget is a forward-looking document, I'm actually also really proud of what we've already accomplished. Today, I will also share Calbright's milestone report with the board, which reflects the hard work of the Calbright team and the steady progress that the college has made and will continue to build upon for the years ahead. I am proud to report that Calbright reached every required statutory milestone this past year. And these milestones, which are defined in our founding legislation, are really important indicators of our progress as we move through that 7-year startup phase. And at every step, we remain on or ahead of schedule in our growth and development. We are working quickly and deliberately to expand our program offerings, to collaborate with stakeholders across the state, and to fulfill our mission to serve Californians who seek a better financial future, but who face barriers to accessing traditional forms of education. It continues to be important to also highlight the distinct urgency of the moment for the population that Calbright serves. For millions of Californians who not only bore the brunt of this pandemic, they now find themselves amidst the resurgence that we've experienced in recent weeks. These same people are navigating an imbalanced economic recession, and they're facing yet another recovery that, if we allow history to repeat itself, will leave many stranded without a path into good jobs in the new economy. Last month, the United Way of California actually published a report that also highlights the urgency. It noted that 51% of Latino, 41% of Black households in California are estimated to not earn enough to get by, compared to 20% of white households. And 40% of Californian high school households in which a high school diploma is the highest form of education similarly find it extraordinarily challenging to afford food and housing. And this reality is especially acute for single mothers. 70% of households that are led by single mothers in the state are struggling to meet basic needs. For me, these numbers are very humbling, but they also illustrate the importance of Calbright and our unique model of education that has to be focused on meeting people where they are and providing high quality training programs for those who are seeking to create a better future for themselves and for their families. I'd like to thank again our dedicated team for their hard work moving our mission forward, and to this board and our advocates across the state for their steadfast supports. I'm very excited about the direction that we're headed in, our future, the direction of Calbright's future, and the essential work ahead to deliver a more equitable recovery so that we can be a part of the solution in providing long-term opportunity for all Californians. Thank you.
Thank you, President Minion. We are now going to move into closed session. The board will move into closed session, and we have 3 items on that agenda, including the evaluation of the CEO. The evaluation is a detailed process and item, and therefore we anticipate being in closed session for approximately an hour and a half. Thank you. When we come out of closed session, then I'll ask for any public comment. Well, thank you for your patience. We are now have returned from closed session. The The board has authorized the CEO to proceed with release of one employee. That is the only action that we took. Any public comment? Is there any public comment?
President Haynes, there is no public comment.
Okay, then given that there's no public comment, we're going to move to the consent agenda, which is section 3. Do any of the trustees wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion or a separate vote? I don't see any hands raised. Oh, I do. I'm sorry. Trustee Grande.
Thank you. I'd like to remove 3.2.
Okay, 3.2. And so we can take 3.2 separately because I'm assuming that you want a separate vote on that and you have questions. So we can hold that aside. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda without 3.2?
So moved.
Okay, and can I get a second and can I get discussion?
Second.
Okay, no discussion. Then, and I don't believe there's any public comment on that one. There isn't. So can I get a roll call?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo,
Aye.
Amy Costa,
Aye.
Tom Epstein,
Aye.
Jolena Grande,
Aye.
Pamela Haynes,
Aye.
Jennifer Perry,
Aye.
and Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
Motion carries, President Haynes.
Thank you. So now we're going to take up item 3.2 as a separate item. Is there, obviously there's comment, so I'm going to let Trustee Grande start with her questions.
Thank you very much, President Haynes. I was looking for some more information on the authorization of new positions for the Director of Policy and Initiatives, Data Coach, Analyst, and Budget and Program Analyst. Specifically, I was wondering if we have full enumerated job descriptions rather than the brief overview that's included in the board docs.
So who's going to take that question?
Trustee Grande, I can speak to the Director of Policy position. So
That's fine, go ahead.
can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So
Yes, go ahead.
we hope to have that position posted later this week. I'm just having a few edits to that. And I started at the end of November, and after doing an assessment about being a statewide community college, the engagement with the legislature, stakeholders, both in Sacramento and up and down the state, this is a position I'd be happy to make this available as soon as I can to everybody on the board and the public, a position to help support in that effort. This is a position that is who has years of experience working in education policy, working in either government, nonprofit, experience working with labor and management, nonprofit associations, strong familiarity with state and federal policy, having worked on state and federal policy at a local, state, and federal level. So it is a senior level position, and it's helping me to build out capacity based on the data. So as we're using this time over the summer to do a landscape analysis and building out capacity, there's a number of organizations and municipalities that have asked to reach out to us, and it goes back to staff capacity. So trying to be as responsive to leaders within Sacramento, but up and down the state as well.
I appreciate the explanation. I would like to see a full detailed job description on this, including a salary range. And I would love that they be included in the agenda item before asking us to vote on accepting the new positions, to have a full-fledged job description of what we anticipate this position or the person filling this position to accomplish.
Certainly, absolutely. Thank you.
Now, who can answer the other two job descriptions for Trustee Grande?
I can speak to the data.
Can I just have a point of clarification, because I think this actually would be a departure from past practices. So in seeking authorization from the board for positions, we have typically provided, as comparable to what most other districts provide, a simple explanation and summary of the position and the primary responsibilities in the position. And so I just want to identify that the ask from Member Grande was about having a full-fledged job description prior to the point of approval going forward. And so I feel that warrants discussion, perhaps.
I'd be more than happy to start that conversation, because as I've looked at other position requests in alternative districts outside of Calbright, almost 100% of the time, whenever a new position is requested, it comes with a full-fledged job description and how that position fits in to the rest of the operation for the institution, as well as a prescribed salary range for it and where it would fall on a salary schedule if it happens to be in a collective bargaining agreement contract.
It appears that this probably needs a little bit more conversation on it. I think that in fairness to Trustee Grande, if it's possible to give her more information on these other two items, it will be helpful for this particular meeting. And then I think we can go offline at another point and then talk about what kind of information should be expected when the board is authorizing positions, if that's okay. So Tom, did you want to speak to this before we move forward?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're recommending, but I would say that in the future we should do what Member Grande wants us to do. But I think I would hate to hold up these positions when I know that we're trying to move quickly. And I would recommend voting on the positions today and providing Member Grande with all the details, and in the future follow her guidance and always provide a full job description with a salary range.
Thank you. So there are two other items. Is there someone on staff that can speak to some of the elements of the job description?
President Haynes, I'm able to speak to the data analyst position.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, so the data analyst position is we're seeking someone who's able to take the data that we have based on our students' progress and our interactions with them, look for patterns and actually help coach the faculty and staff on how to look at data more deeply and enact it into changes in how we support students. In essence, it becomes a cyclical type role, because if there are things that our data may not be telling us, and we need to look at it a different way, they may be also helping advise on the refinement of our tools for data collection.
Thank you very much. And then the last position, is there someone to speak on that one?
Yes, of course, Madam President. For the budget and program analyst, the intent here is to provide additional support in the area of budget analysis and strategic analysis and forecasting for Calbright. We're intending to expand that capacity here to help us with some of our multi-year projection capabilities on the budget side. This is something we've been thinking about for a while here, in our abilities to look at the long-term strategic goals of the school, and to prepare ourselves for the ability to project forward some of our capabilities here at the college. And this is something that position would be looking forward to doing. In addition to that, there would be somebody that would serve as a conduit, I think, at which we've indicated here, with the other departments, in particularly human resources, to make sure that we are in sync with the rest of the college.
Thank you for those explanations. Do you have any further comments? I know, I think we've taken Tom's suggestion and your intended suggestion, Trustee Grande, but do you have any further comments before I ask for a motion to approve?
I don't, but I would like to offer up the motion that we accept the ratification of appointments, resignations, and release separate from authorizing the new positions. And I would make a motion to that effect.
So my Robert's Rules of Order. So if you're making that motion, I think I need a second because we're splitting this. So I would be looking for a second for your motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so we are taking that, we're taking the ratification of new positions, the authorization of new positions. We're going to vote on that separately. We have a motion to separate it. So can we vote on the motion to separate it? So would you call the roll on that motion?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo. Amy Costa.
Aye.
Tom Epstein.
Aye.
Jolena Grande.
Aye.
Pamela Haynes.
Aye.
Jennifer Perry.
Aye.
And Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
And I wanted to mention, President Haynes, there was no public comment.
Thank you. And I don't think there's public comment on the consent. Oh, this is no longer consent. So we have now bifurcated it. Now I need a motion on this particular authorization.
I will move that we ratify the appointments, resignations, and releases.
Can I get a second on that?
I'll second.
All right, so can we, is there any other comment on those items from the board? Is there any public comment?
There is no public comment, President Haynes.
All right, then can I get a roll call vote then, please?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo. Amy Costa.
Aye.
Tom Epstein.
Aye.
Jolena Grande.
Aye.
Pamela Haynes.
Aye.
Jennifer Perry.
Aye.
And Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
All right, thank
Motion
you.
carries, President Haynes.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting. And so now we're taking the authorization of new positions.
I'll
Is
move.
there, we have a motion from Vice President Costa. Can I get a second motion?
I'll second Rawlings.
Trustee Rawlings seconds. Is there any discussion from the board? From board members? I see none. Is there any public comment?
There is no public comment, President Haynes.
All right, then can I get a roll call vote, please?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo. Amy Costa.
Aye.
Tom Epstein.
Aye.
Jolena Grande.
Abstain.
Pamela Haynes.
Aye.
Jennifer Perry.
Aye.
And Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
Motion carries, President Haynes.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for putting me through my paces on Robert's rules, and I appreciate that. We're now going to go to our action items. 4.1, which is the public hearing and adoption of the 2021-22 final budget. So, and we have Jeff Bell, who will be the presenter of this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we start the presentation, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we start the presentation, I just want to note there were some slight technical adjustments to slide 12 and 13, as well as pages 11 and 12 of the final budget summary. That was there, those are corrected in the slides before you today. The item before you is the Calbright final budget for 21-22, and it represents the culmination of many hours of staff time and analysis by your Calbright team. Next slide, please. The budget represents the first of 3 years of the implementation of the college's strategic vision, with particular emphasis on serving the unique needs of working adults. The budget also reflects cost requirements unique to Calbright College. And these include costs associated with implementing key statutory obligations and significant new costs associated with the implementation of key recommendations from the state auditor. Combined investments made this year support efforts to achieve the goals set out in the college's strategic vision, including stepped up efforts to better reach students in the college's focus population, organizational capacity building and development needed to ensure sufficient staffing, resources, and expertise to support stronger student progression and outcomes, and building partnerships and infrastructure necessary for stronger labor market outcomes for students. It also includes deepening work with industry and employers, workforce and economic development agents, and a focus on regions and localities to inform the necessary design of high quality and effective teaching, learning, and support activities. Next slide, please. Now, of course, this budget was created in accordance with all pertinent state of California community college system and Calbright college policies, including the Title V regulations and the community college's budget and accounting manual. Next slide, please. Now, to ground us in our process, this is our budget preparation calendar, and it gives us a sense of where we are, and the purpose for showing it to you this afternoon is to give you a sense of how much we've accomplished. Today, we are at the hearing for the final budget for the final vote and approval, which will allow us for a timely submission to the Chancellor's office. As in the prior year, following board approval, we will standardize the format of these documents at hand and prepare them for formal submission to the final budget to the Chancellor's office by September 15th of this year. Next slide, please. Now, as you will see in the forthcoming slides, this budget aligns with the core principles that are outlined in the Calbright strategic vision. Specifically, be it incorporating feedback from students, to working closer to determine the needs of the workforce, to providing greater support to the learner, you will find these core principles interwoven throughout the budget before you today. Next slide, please. And I want to make sure we emphasize that this budget serves Calbright's college student body. The students we serve are adults without degrees who seek economic stability. About 94% are older than 25 and make self-paced programs are their only most viable option. They're working adults, unemployed or underemployed, many in dead-end jobs, and the majority of our enrolled students are people of color. Next slide, please. Now, the next several slides that you're going to see will cover Calbright's fiscal year 2021 annual and one-time funds. And as many of you know, the college has a limited amount of ongoing funding after receiving a 25% $5 million reduction in fiscal year 2020, taking our annual general fund apportionment from the state from $20 million to $15 million. So beginning with annual funding in the Calbright budget, like most organizations, positions make up a significant portion of our budget. The bulk of the positions that Calbright is requesting for the coming year are really geared towards serving student needs and will improve student experience here at the college. What do I mean by that? Well, here on, as is evident on slide 7, primary additions are in areas such as workforce development, student services, learning and instruction. And while there are other examples, the point here is that the efforts are aimed at improving student outcomes and needs. Those are the objectives we're striving to meet. Next slide, please. The purpose of this slide is to show you that there are other additional expenses that come with running the college, such as our additional software license requirements and facility lease costs, as well as travel. These are important components of our budget. Next slide, please. As with the annual funding described above, one-time funding has been geared towards one-time strategic costs focused on improving services to students and the necessary investments to not just build, but prepare to scale college efforts. This is perhaps most evident in our $4 million outreach campaign, which is intended to significantly increase Calbright's visibility statewide. Additionally, another $4 million for applied work and analysis that'll be specifically designed to improve the student's experience. Indeed, this combination of data, methodology, and infrastructure needed to more precisely test and improve our touch points and interventions with students will be available as a result of this body of work. There's also an investments to deepen partnerships and labor market connections and build new high-quality pathways that are going to be responsive to the needs of our adult learners. Next slide, please. Additionally, we have $3.5 million for technology software implementation, including funding for our enterprise resource planning systems, licenses for our students to learning management systems, and an additional $1.7 million for additional technologies and platforms underlying student learning and support and workforce connections. Finally, let's turn to capital outlay expenses. Given the recent real estate office space environment, Calbright staff are taking a prudent look at the best approach for being positioned for on-the-ground outreach and partnership development, and expanding our geographic footprint for the college to the Bay Area, Southern California, as well as other high-need regions of the state, with leasing as our best option versus actually purchasing space. Next slide, please. Now, the purpose of this slide is to show you, because we've been talking about one-time funds for a few minutes, to show you ongoing funding. And the bulk of ongoing funding, as we've talked about, just to give you a strong sense, is 10.9 million of our 15 million is in salaries and benefits for the college faculty and staff. The other 4.1 million is operating expenses, other operating expenses, and this gives you a sense of those, some of which you've already seen. For example, the facility leases, there's funding for telecommunications as well. Next slide, please. Finally, when we pull it together, we have our annual and one-time funds all in one slide. And the purpose of this slide shows both annual and one-time in one sheet to present it to you and show you what the final totals will be, as well as to show you the final budget does have an appropriate reserve. As you can see, about 2/3 of the way down the slide, our total expenses and annual funds are 15 million. One-time funds are about 44.4 million for a grand total of 59.372, with a contingency reserve of 9.4%. Next slide, please. This slide shows us our 2021, how we ended the year. Excuse me. And the purpose of presenting this information to you is to show you that our totals gave us a final unsigned fund balance of almost $6.3 million, which is in the lower right-hand corner of the slide. Next slide, please. With that, that is the culmination of my formal presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any trustee member questions? Trustee Rawlings.
Just a question related to past public comments. Overall, I think the budget looks all right, but I was wondering if we had our formal budget posted online, or will we be doing that after we do an approval?
The posting of our budget will be on our presentation. This presentation will be available online as well after we get our formal presentations posted to the Chancellor's office.
Just a point of clarification, Bill, we actually do have online the prior year budgets and documents, as well as these documents that have been presented to the board. We'll swap them out with the submissions to the Chancellor's office when that submission is made following approval.
Got it. Yeah, I just recall the previous public comments requesting that a detailed budget be posted online. So if we're on that track, that's great.
We heard them and we attended to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Vice President Costa.
I can't say nothing on the budget, disappoint my colleagues. Just thank you for the great presentation, Jeff. I'm looking forward to, as we mature as an organization, building kind of some more robust projection capability.
Yes.
And, I want to just take this opportunity to really thank the administration and the legislature for continuing their funding for Calbright. I do think we're really at a key inflection point in this state. And we really have the ability to help retrain many, many individuals who are going to be displaced as part of kind of the COVID economic impacts. And so, my hope is that we can continue our work here. Clearly we're an organization of people. And so the fact that, much of our expenditures are around the people who are directly helping our students is, I think, a testament to the model that we're building. And so thank you, Ajita and Jeff.
Thank you.
Other comments on the budget? All right. I too want to add my thanks. And I too appreciate that we are now posting our budget on our website. And I think it's a budget that has a lot of thought and a lot of hard work went into. And so I just want you to know that it is appreciated. And with that, is there any public comment on the budget?
Yes, President Haynes, there is public comment from Eric Kaljumagi.
Please.
Good afternoon, President Hayes, Vice President Costa, College President Menon, and members of the board. My name is Eric Kaljumagi. I'm the president of the Community College Association. And I would like to express my thanks to Trustee Bill Rawlings for expressing an interest in having the budget posted. As of today, Calbright's budget is not posted. There is a budget page, which is a significant improvement that includes the budget summaries, which are the PDF files that you see during your board meetings. I went ahead and spent a little time on the Los Rios District website earlier today and discovered 179 pages of general fund detail and adopted budget detail for that college. This is where you learn such things, such as at American River College, there are 26.5 full-time equivalent counseling faculty, and the amount of department chair release stipends amounted to $793,000. This level of detail is necessary for transparency. It's not something you discuss at a board meeting, but it should be available. You deserve to be able to see this. The public deserves to be able to see this. I am glad to hear that Calbright is working towards publishing its adopted budgets and look forward to perusing it in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
There is no other public comment, President Haynes.
Thank you. Can I get, if there's no further comment by my colleagues on the board, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
It is moved by Vice President Costa. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Epstein. Would you please call the roll?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo. Amy Costa.
Aye.
Tom Epstein.
Aye.
Jolena Grande.
Aye.
Pamela Haynes.
Aye.
Jennifer Perry.
Aye.
And Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
Motion carries, President Haynes.
Thank you. We're now moving to item 4.2, which is the signature authority for the CFAO. Jeff Bell, You're still on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In April of 2019, the board adopted a resolution 2905 to establish Calbright's accounts in the Treasury of Solano County. Calbright's responsible per Education Codes 85, 233, and 232 for filing signature of each person authorized to sign orders against that account. Last year, the board authorized Nick Schweitzer, the former CFAO, and Jennifer Stahlheber, the former controller, director of finance, as well as our president, Ajita Talwalkar-Menon, to be signatories for the Solano County Treasurer accounts. Both Nick and Jennifer have left, and I am now the CFAO, and I'm proposing to be added as a signatory for the accounts. So the recommendation before you is to authorize myself as a signatory on the Calbright's accounts for the Solano County Treasury.
Thank you for that presentation.
Yeah.
Do we have questions from our board? I don't see any. Is there a public comment on this item?
There is no public comment, President Haynes.
Thank you. Then can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. I'm gonna pick you, Jennifer, to move it, and then if I can have if you'll move it, and then I'll have Jolena Grande to second. That's okay. All right. I see an affirmative nod. Then would you please call the roll?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo. Amy Costa.
Aye.
Tom Epstein.
Aye.
Jolena Grande.
Aye.
Pamela Haynes.
Aye.
Jennifer Perry.
Aye.
And Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
Motion carries, President Haynes.
Thank you for that. We're now moving to item 4.3, which is an addendum to the professional services agreement with V Chiefs. And we have Marissa Bold presenting on this item.
Great. Thank you, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, and members of the board. I would like to present to you an addendum to increase the value of services on the V-Chief Professional Services Agreement for your approval. This addendum reflects additional need for services aligned with the existing scope of work. At its meeting on February 16th in 2021, the Board of Trustees approved execution of a professional services agreement with V-Chief following a request for proposal or RFP process. The agreement was for an estimated amount of $190,000 and for a term of 1 year. The scope of services provided by V-Chief include areas such as project management across divisions, such as learning and instruction and student success, support for human resources and finance-related programs and projects, support for compliance work, conducting research and analysis, and developing systems, processes, and documentation for the college. At the time the board authorized the V-Chief agreement, it was estimated that Calbright would request support from 2 to 3 V-Chief contractors and that the needs would ramp down in the second half of the year. Following board authorization of the agreement, additional needs and mandates have arisen for Calbright, including things such as the implementation of the strategic vision and compliance with the timelines and deliverables required by the state audit. This has resulted in Calbright's need for significant additional services from V-Chief. For example, Calbright required support from 5 and sometimes 6 V-Chief contractors to support Calbright employees and help manage the increased workload. As a result of these unanticipated needs and V-Chief's provision of critical support to meet these needs, Calbright has already extended the total amount authorized by the board under the agreement. Calbright expects that the increased level of support needed from V-Chief will continue for the remainder of the current term of the agreement, which ends in February 2022. While V-Chief support and services are critical now and in the near future as Calbright's building capacity and infrastructure and complying with the timelines and deliverables of the state audit, it's not anticipated that V-Chief services will be needed on an ongoing basis beyond the startup and capacity building phase of the college. And the funds used to fund these services are paid from Calbright's one-time startup funds. Calbright is seeking authorization for additional funds for this agreement via approval of an agreement addendum. The additional services that have been and will be provided by VChief are consistent with the RFP and the scope of services outlined in the agreement. Calbright requests through the addendum to increase the value of services provided by VChief by an additional $240,000. Thus, the total value of the agreement and the addendum together would be $430,000. All other terms of the agreement would remain in full force and effect. Thank you and welcome questions and anything else that's helpful.
So do I have questions from our trustees? I see Trustee Epstein.
Thanks. I just have one quick question. Do you think this expansion of this contract would have been necessary had we not had the audit? Is this largely to comply with the requirements of the audit?
I think it's not only that, right? It's as we grow too, but I do think a good portion of it are the hours used when we track month by month increased significantly in June and July, almost doubled. And so a lot of that there's a lot that's critical to the capacity building of the college as well. And it's all in service of those goals, but absolutely increased.
Are there any other questions from our from board members? I don't see any. Is there any public comment on this item?
President Haynes, there is no public comment.
All right, then can I get a motion to approve?
I will move to approve. Rawlings.
Rawlings moves to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Epstein seconds. Thank you for that. Then would you please call the roll?
Hildegarde Aguinaldo. Amy Costa.
Aye.
Tom Epstein.
Aye.
Jolena Grande.
Aye.
Pamela Haynes.
Aye.
Jennifer Perry. And Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
Motion carries, President Haynes.
Thank you very much. That completes our action agenda, and we're moving to our information items and reports. So 5.1 is the 2021 statutory milestone report, and we have our President Mignon, who's going to be presenting on this item.
Thank you, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, and members of the Board of Trustees. As you may know, each year by August 1st, Calbright is required by statute to report back to the legislature, as well as to the Department of Finance, on its progress towards very specific milestones that are in the legislation. This is the third milestone report that Calbright has submitted since its launch, and it was submitted on time on July 30th. I am happy to report that Calbright has met all of its statutory requirements 2019, 2020, and 21, despite both a leadership transition and the arrival of COVID-19 within the first 5 months of its operations. This year's requirements state that by July 1st, the college will be expected to meet all of the following milestones. Incorporating student feedback to improve the college's instruction, technology, and student support services, designing and validating at least 3 additional program pathways, including coordination and creation of new content, applying for accreditation from an accreditor recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. Additionally, Calbright's enabling statute requires that each year milestone report includes information on student enrollment, outcomes, program descriptions, the number of faculty and staff employed by the college, information on student wage gain, and a qualitative description of the college's efforts and progress to reach and serve working adults. With respect to student feedback, Calbright integrates student feedback into college operations in a variety of different ways, from I don't know why this keeps. Sorry, 1 second. Just a bit of technical difficulty. As I mentioned, so Calbright integrates student feedback into the college operations in a variety of different ways. Sorry, Hillary, I think maybe if you could just pull down the presentation. I think it's in everybody's packet. Thank you. Calbright integrates student feedback into the college operations in a variety of different ways, from surveys to technological and instructional interventions. The college administered alumni and end of course evaluations and emergency services surveys in 2020 to monitor overall student satisfaction. The college used these surveys to also gauge students' satisfaction with using instructional technologies, core skills attainment, access to technology, as well as to support services. We also use Slack Workspace, which is a messaging and work-based software tool for our students to actually work in, which serves as something like a digital quad, we've been calling it, for interaction, communication, and direct feedback and interaction with faculty and staff. As you know, we are working to act on the feedback we received, also relating to CCC Apply, whereby we hope to achieve system-wide gains from the research that we've accomplished in this area. Calbright has exceeded the second milestone goal and has designed and validated 5 new programs to add to the 3 initial programs that were launched in October of 2019. Our process for building new programs builds on the expertise of the team at Calbright, with validation through industry and labor partners, as well as deep market and user research to ensure that the program will set students on a path towards success in in-demand fields. The 5 additional programs, if you recall, that are board approved, designed and validated are Transition to Technology, which is the Customer Relationship Management Platform Administration, a Transition to Technology around IT Help Desk Technician, Transition to Technology, Introduction to Networks, and then 2 Upskilling for Equitable Health Impacts programs, one focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the second on interpersonal skills. Lastly, Calbright's application for accreditation has been submitted and accepted by the accreditor recognized by the United States Department of Education. And by statute, Calbright was required to be in candidate status or its equivalent by the end of 2022 and fully accredited by 2025. So we're well ahead of schedule on both of those respective milestones. To add a qualitative summary of our work over the past year, we've kind of focused our work on 4 key areas: improving student supports, responding to challenges facing our students, engaging partners to expand programs, and charting our path forward. With respect to the first around improving student supports based on feedback from the beta cohort, Calbright has redesigned the student experience in each program pathway to ensure that students are mastering both technical and soft skills that are defined for their programs, and that within a structure that best supports their actual progression. For example, students are now trained on essential workplace skills and technical program skills simultaneously rather than sequentially, after they reported that being required to complete essential skills coursework before engaging in technical skills coursework created barriers to their progression and success. Secondly, we are responding to the challenges that are actually being faced by our students. That over the past year, we've done a considerable amount of deep research into the impact of the pandemic on our focus population and the barriers that they're facing as they try to access good jobs. We've also analyzed the labor market needs across California as a statewide institution so that we can be responsive to regions of the state where the need is the greatest, including areas like the Inland Empire and the Central Valley. With respect to number 3, engaging partners to expand programs, we have worked in partnership with industry, employers, and labor partners to design and validate 5 new program pathways this year. And we continue our research and design process to create additional flexible pathways into in-demand jobs for working Californians. Importantly, the result of this work was also to serve as a resource for the California Community College system as a whole to help support the implementation of effective strategies. Finally, in charting a path forward, the milestone report includes an appendix summary in the appendix, a summary of Calbright's strategic vision through 2023, which is approved by the Calbright Board of Trustees on March 22nd. And as you're aware, our strategic vision is setting the overall direction for the next 3 years as we shift from launch to high quality growth. And a full copy of the milestone report was included as an attachment to the board docs, which you can review in greater detail. Thank you for your time and consideration, and the team and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. I see one hand up. Trustee Grande, you have a question?
Thank you very much for this presentation, President Menon. I am thrilled with our milestone report, and I want to commend the entire executive team for the work that went into it, because it's clear that we are making progress, a lot of progress. I do have just a couple of questions though, in relation to milestone number 1, incorporating student feedback. Do you happen to know how many students were surveyed and what the response rate was that provided us with the 9 out of 10 who said that they were very satisfied?
I will turn that over to either Ted or Ari.
So I will, I'll see if I can find an answer for you offline on that, or in the background, unless Ted has it on hand.
Okay. And then just a second question, which is a follow-up to the first one. I know that there was a significant number of our students who were getting stuck in the essentials course. Were they surveyed, and what did we gain from their responses?
Yeah, the experience that they had actually is what ultimately drove the changes. So they were the ones that were identifying to us the nature of the obstruction with respect to the sequential design of the courses. And so it was that direct impact from student feedback with respect to how that program and that course were going that resulted in the changes.
The second question that I have is in regards to the next milestone report. Will we as a system begin to see more emphasis once again on diversity, equity, and inclusion metrics? Will we see a side-by-side comparison between the demographics of our student population and the faculty and staff of Calbright?
It sounds like, Jolena, you're asking for a breakout table. We can certainly look into how the data is structured and how we might provide a response to your question.
The reason why I'm asking is that system-wide, we're looking to see that our faculty and staff resemble our students. So having a side-by-side comparison of the demographics of our students with the demographics of our faculty, specifically with race and gender and age, it would be interesting to note the similarities, to see if we as Calbright are making more significant impact in those realms than maybe some of our system partners, something that would be a feather in our cap.
We will, happily, I think we're beginning that data collection. We're moving forward with the passage of the EEO resolution that the board had passed at our previous board meeting. And we are in the late stages of bringing to the board soon the development of our EEO plan. So I think a lot of that information will soon be under collection, and also will be something we'll be able to share out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from trustees? Yes, Trustee Epstein.
Thanks. President Menon, you were working with the legislature when the Calbright authorizing legislation was created, weren't you?
Yes, I did support some of that development.
And were you involved in the development of the milestones, or are you aware of what the expectations were of the legislature at the time the milestones were created?
in most of my involvement actually was in shaping the item for development into the policy process. So I certainly wasn't privy to the discussions that happened in the course of the legislative debate on the issue, but I was aware and understand with respect to what the expectations were that we were putting forward in the conceptual design of the proposal.
Right. And so the milestones were a very important accountability measure that the legislature required. Is that correct?
Yes.
And has Calbright ever missed a milestone that's been required in the time that Calbright's been in existence? And in fact, have they exceeded many of the milestone calendar?
Yes, we have met or exceeded for the 3 required milestone reports that we have submitted consistently.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for putting that on the record, Trustee Epstein. Vice President Costa.
Yeah, I'm going to wonk out and just say the accreditation milestone in particular for those who are not well versed in that process. I mean, it is a very intensive process. Yes. And the fact that we were able to actually exceed that milestone is amazing. And I think it really underlines Calbright's commitment to a public institution for adult learners, and the ability to submit that. I just want to thank the staff. It's a heavy lift, and you guys did it. So congrats.
I just want to echo my thanks to the whole team at Calbright. I don't think there was a single person in the institution that wasn't touched in some way in terms of contributing to the process of the accreditation application and self-study that we've completed.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, then is there public comment on this item?
President Haynes, there is no public comment. And just to do a time check, we are at approximately 1:40 with 20 minutes remaining.
Thank you so much. Then this requires no approval. So we're going to move to reports and on contracts and purchases 5.2. Jeff Bell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Contracts and reports. We have on the contract side 11 items to report to you. There were 7 new contracts, 2 that had additional contracts that had amount increases requested, 1 in a term and amount increase, and then 1 renewal for a grand total of $887,716 on that side. On the expenses side for the purchases, you'll notice it was a little larger than normal rather. That's because we had our community college league dues were due. So you'll see dues for $42,453 associated with that. That is the conclusion of my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam President, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. Are there any comments from our trustees? Vice President Costa, you have your hand up. I'm not certain if it's for this item or not. Okay, thank you. This is a standing information item, and so it is therefore for the trustees to ask questions if there's anything that they want to note on contracts. Seeing none, and it doesn't require a vote, is there any public comment on this item?
President Haynes, there is no public comment.
Very good, then. Then we're going to move down to constituency group reports. We have our Calbright Academic Senate report from Michael Stewart. Mr. Stewart.
Good afternoon, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, and Board of Trustees members. My name is Michael Stewart, and I'm the president of the Calbright Academic Senate. And before I begin, I must thank President Haynes for acknowledging that picture of my dog when she was a puppy. I love that picture, and that's why I always put that up there, because she looks far better than I do. So it's always softer to have her representing me. So I'm here to give you a report on what the Academic Senate has been up to lately. We have filed our paperwork and submitted it to the Academic Senate, the California State Academic Senate, for recognition of Calbright as an AS. And that will be heard on September 9th by the ASCCC board. Instruction is also working on getting career readiness course into our learning management system and is currently working with an instructional designer to create interactive activities to make the course even more engaging. Another thing is we have 2 medical coding students who have recently completed the program, and one has already passed the certified professional coder, which is a CPC certification exam. Medical coding is also working on finishing up new badging systems that we are hoping to launch in the near future. And as for our flagship course right now, a number of students have successfully completed the CRM Salesforce IT 520 course. An exact number of that is 12 have completed 100% of that course, and our IT 525, 6 have completed at least 50% of that. The 12 that have completed the course are eligible to sit for the certification exam. And our other courses, students are continue to complete the Information Technology Support A+ and Security Plus programs. In order to prepare them for certification exam, we're offering exam prep sessions in both group and individual settings. And the thing that we're most proud of right now is our instructors are delivering an exciting, interactive, hands-on learning experience to IT program pathway students via a newly reinvented Friday web chat series. Student feedback has been overwhelmingly positive regarding the technical demos, hands-on projects, and interactions with industry professionals offered during these events. And as usual, Calbright Academic Senate is working hard to support our students. And that is my report.
Thank you so much for that update. And our next item is the Calbright Faculty Association report from Ashley Odell.
Hello, President Haynes, Vice President Costa, College President Menon, and esteemed members of the board. My name is Ashley Odell, and I'm the president of the Calbright Faculty Association. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for offering the Calbright Faculty Association the opportunity to present in the executive committee meeting. We're grateful for the time and space held for sharing updates regarding the association's activity and its dedication to the faculty, students, and the college. So thank you for that. A very short but important and exciting update today. We are very happy to report that bargaining recommenced on July 15th, 2021, with a session focused on establishing MOU for the current contract year and then leading into eventual contract items. A second session also occurred on July 27th from 12 to 4 p.m. Where we continued discussing some pertinent items to the faculty. We are looking forward to further work with the Calbright administration to establish mutually agreeable terms. And I want to thank you again for your time and holding the space here in this meeting for us.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for that presentation. Are there any comments from the trustees on these reports? I do not see any. Thank you so much. We're now open for public forum. Are there any members of the public who wish to be heard?
President Haynes, there is no public questions or comments.
Well, okay, thank you so much. Then the business of the Board of Trustees is now complete and we can adjourn. And I want to thank you so much for the public's comments as well as from my colleagues' comments and being here today. Thank you so much. We're now adjourned.